Well, basically, we have been negotiating this pay agreement. Obviously, it was due, and we've been negotiating this pay agreement for the last 2 to 3 months, the most. And obviously, the result of which we are extremely pleased. Obviously, at the time where all workers are feeling the pinch, so this is what we call, a lifesaver, at least for that goes into certain ways to mitigate current inflation.
And what will employees receive as a result of this deal?
Yeah, the deal in itself, it's a 2,000 consolidated payment for all workers, which in effect more or less goes to 10%, which reflects to a 10% increase to lower earners, and the average is around 7%. It also obviously it also incorporates into pension, overtime payments, and happily enough, we've managed to also agree a 7% increase of the on-call allowance.
How important was it to be able to reach this agreement? Would this have gone on or stalled had this agreement not reached a particular point?
Well, obviously the pay negotiations were due, but obviously it came at a time where the mobilization of the new contract was taking place as well, which is currently the case now. The new contract starts in November, but I have to obviously praise management, who have always, turned to meetings with a proactive approach to trying to find a solution to our demands, members' demands, which are quite high in the current circumstances.
And how have employees reacted to this pay agreement?
Well, the actual pay was obviously the actual pay agreement was put to the members for their support, and it was an overwhelming support, which is something we very much welcome, and praise have to be given to the fantastic shop steward team that I have at Mitie, and obviously also the support we have always received from the membership, not only at the good times when we got good news to relay to them, but at times when we've had to obviously communicate negative news, and we have always had full support to take whatever action has been needed.
And following the pay agreement being reached, what's the relationship like now between Unite and Mitie Defence?
Well, the relationship is excellent. If you recall, going back, obviously this contract goes back to 2007 when Serco was awarded the contract when the big privatization took place in the Ministry of Defence. So the relationship with Serco wasn't as good. If you recall, we had a number of walkout strikes at the time, but we have managed to develop a very good relationship with Interserve, which obviously is now Mitie. But the reality is that the management is exactly the same as the one in Interserve, and I cannot say any negative talks, in terms of the relationship, because it's proof of the pudding is that we have consistently agreed rewarding pay and conditions enhancement for our members at Mitie.
And we've seen agreements with other companies in the private sector, for example. So did those inform this pay agreement?
Well, obviously this is a positive story. There are other positive stories in the private sector. We have reached a number of agreements in the private sector with many employers, but there are also employers who are recognizing the current inflation crisis, and they themselves, without union intervention, are obviously putting salaries up because of this. They are recognition. There are other areas which we are finding difficulty, both in the public and in the private sector. We've got MOD workers who have recently balloted against a pay increase, although recognizing that our members in the MOD have suffered the consequences of the pay austerity program of HM Treasury. They haven't received a significant pay increase now for over 10 years. That's something that we as a union recognize. And there are also employers in the private sector who haven't done the same. And let's not forget that government workers, public sector workers in Gibraltar have now had a pay freeze for the last 3 years as well.